and welcome to This Explainer. I'm Mansi Suryawanshi, and I am so glad you're here to take this journey with me today. We're going to explore a truly mind-bending concept from our source material. It's the idea that human emotion and just the simple act of our observation might actually alter the physical matter of our world. I know, it totally sounds like science fiction, but we're going to gently walk through the data, the experiments, and even some ancient wisdom that suggests we are so much more intimately connected to the fabric of the universe than classical science ever thought possible. We'll break it all down step by step together.
Okay, let's dive into this. Does reality only exist when we look at it? That is the central, beautiful mystery we're looking at today. Now, traditionally, you might think that tapping into the fundamental forces of the universe means you have to go live in a mountaintop monastery for your entire life, right? Leaving everyone and everything behind. But what the source material argues is that this is actually an internal technology. It's an accessible mechanism available to every single one of us, right now, simply for the way we choose to embrace our lives and direct our focus.
Section 1. Emotion influences physical matter.
To really understand this internal technology, we first have to look at a foundational argument, the idea that human emotion directly influences our physical world. And we mean everything, from our very DNA to the invisible field that connects all things. The authors highlight some incredible statistical studies about prayer and healing. They found that people who were prayed for during an illness or surgery actually fared significantly better. Those receiving prayer reportedly recovered faster, they experienced less trauma, and they even had less bleeding, swelling, and bruising. The argument here is that what we used to just call miracles might actually be an underlying science we just haven't fully grasped yet. And once we do, it becomes an applied technology that we can use to care for each other.
Section 2. The double-slit mystery.
So, how exactly does this internal technology work? Well, the sources point us back to the turn of the 20th century, to an experiment that totally broke the traditional scientific model. You see, before 1909, science relied on Newtonian or classical physics. That's a very mechanistic view of the world, basically just things bumping up against other things. But then, quantum physics emerged, and it revealed that at the incredibly small scale of elementary particles and the massively huge scale of galaxies, the universe operates under a completely different set of rules. And that brings us to the famous double-slit experiment of 1909. Let me walk you through exactly how they did it. First, scientists fired a beam of photons at a barrier. Photons are just particles of light, literally the fundamental building blocks that atoms and ultimately you and I are made of. Second, these photons were expected to pass through two little slits in the barrier. And third, the scientists just waited to observe the pattern that showed up on the other side. But the results? They created an absolute mystery. Scientists fully expected the light to behave in a very predictable, normal way. But what they discovered was staggering. When no one and nothing was observing the experiment, the particles behaved as fluid waves of energy. However, the moment a human being or even a mechanical gadget actively watched or recorded the experiment, those particles remained as distinct, solid little particles. Literally, the mere act of observation fundamentally determined how the energy chose to express itself. Section 3. The observer effect intensified. This mind-blowing phenomenon is what we call the observer effect. And the scientific journey didn't just end in 1909. Let's fast forward a bit, past Albert Einstein's struggles with these concepts in the 1950s, which we'll talk about in just a moment, all the way to February 26, 1998. At the Weizmann Institute of Science, researchers actually repeated that double-slit experiment. But this time, they used a highly controlled beam of electrons and much more sophisticated equipment. Their findings were so profound, they made global headlines and were published in the prestigious journal Nature, volume 391. Now, what's really interesting about this is the exact phrasing the scientists used in that 1998 study. They noted that the experiment revealed that the greater the amount of watching, the greater the observer's influence on what actually takes place. According to our sources, this didn't just confirm that original 1909 experiment, it completely escalated it. It suggests we aren't just passively watching our reality unfold. The argument is that the intensity of our focus directly correlates to the intensity of the physical change in the world around us.
Section 4. Ancient wisdom meets science.
While this scientific vocabulary might be relatively new, the source beautifully points out that the core concept is actually ancient. The argument here is that science is finally finding the words for something spiritual traditions have been trying to tell us for millennia. Take the Mahayana Sutra, for example, a foundational Buddhist text. It plainly states, Reality exists only where the mind creates a focus. Thousands of years before we had modern lab equipment to measure electron beams, ancient wisdom intuitively understood this. They knew that when we bring our thoughts, our feelings, and our emotions together, we create a focus that literally shapes the physical world.
Section 5. Einstein and spooky action. Now, despite how elegant and beautiful this connection is, not every scientist was ready to embrace it. In fact, one of history's greatest minds found this concept deeply disturbing, and that was Albert Einstein. Early in the 20th century, Einstein was hunting for a unified field theory. He wanted a single, coherent story that could tie all of nature, physics, and math into one grand framework to explain our relationship to the universe. But he got stuck. And the source argues that the main reason he got stuck is that he fundamentally deeply believed that we are separate from the universe. It bothered him so much that on his deathbed in the early 1950s, Einstein admitted this roadblock. He simply could not stand the idea that we could be so intimately connected to the universe that an action in one place could instantaneously influence something far away. He famously, and kind of playfully, called this spooky action at a distance. He was using the exact same math and equations as his quantum physics colleagues, but his deep-seated belief that we are separate from the universe made this level of quantum connection incredibly uncomfortable for him.
Section 6. A participatory universe. But where Einstein saw an insurmountable, spooky roadblock, his dear friend and colleague at Princeton University, Professor John Wheeler, saw something deeply empowering. Wheeler looked at the exact same math, but he drew a vastly different, beautiful conclusion. He argued that we have to shatter this old illusion of separation. In his own words, the old word observer simply has to be crossed off the books. There are no observers. We must put in the new word participator. So the crucial point is this. We aren't just sitting in the audience watching the universe happen on a screen. We are up on the stage. And that led Wheeler to a truly mind-bending conclusion. He realized that we will never, ever find the absolute smallest particle of matter, and we will never find the absolute edge of the cosmos. Why? Because, as the source highlights, the very act of looking, our pure expectation that something will be there, is actually an act of creation. Every single time we look deeper into the quantum realm or peer further out into space, our participatory focus guarantees that something will be put there for us to see. Which leaves us with a truly profound question to ponder together. Based on everything we've explored from the source material today, from the magic of the observer effect to the empowering truth of a participatory universe, the authors argue that you are absolutely not a passive bystander in your life. You possess a brilliant, powerful internal technology. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this thought to carry with you. When you look into the universe today, what are you expecting to create? Thank you so much for joining me, Mansi Suryawanshi, on this journey. Keep questioning, keep focusing your beautiful minds, and I'll see you next time.